started my career as an engineer, but that was like a previous life. I've not been coding for the last 10 years. Been in product for most of the last 10 years. And what ended up happening was I was like, we were doing like a project. So currently I'm doing a startup called Post Studio. This is in media tech space. And I'll just take probably 10 seconds to describe it. So like in common parlance, we call editing in like movie and film production, right? So editing in like in actual world is called post-production. The shooting part is production, and everything else that happens afterward is called post-production. So post-production is a very complicated flow. It requires like, let's say, editing, color grading, VFX, audio, like this 6-7 stages of post-production. So currently, most of the post-production worldwide happens on-prem because there's like heavy data requirement. So let's say a movie that is short, it's like several terabytes of data. And then it cannot be done on cloud. I mean, that's how it has been going on worldwide. And even the like tools, let's say Adobe Premiere Pro and all that we hear, they have a cloud version, but it's essentially mostly the login part happens with cloud. Everything else happens on your local system. So what we have built is like a cloud platform wherein you can actually do post-production on cloud from anywhere with like a simple laptop connection. So that's the product about. We have some of the largest media houses in India, at least, as our clients. So most big part of JioStar's post-production, at least all the ads, all the trailers that you see on either Hotstar or Star Network happens on my platform. So so yeah, that's where we are. And then yeah, I've worked with Zomato, Hotstar, like many other companies earlier. I'm also SB grad, 2016. So there was one problem statement wherein our customers are demanding the usage insights on the platform. So how much machine hours were used, who used, what were like, the Slack, etc. So I mean, we built a dashboard, but it was not sufficient. Every time, I mean, you'll have more requests. So we thought we'll build like we'll essentially expose a relevant database to our customers, and they can kind of, if they can do it, they can query it in English, it'll just solve our problem. What ended up happening was the engineer who was building this, he left. So, I mean, this happened like a few months back. And then since then, it has not happened. So I was like, okay, fine, this looks like an interesting use case. Why should I not try it myself? So that was one problem statement that I was like figuring out whether it can be done on n8n or not. So that's essentially where I am. I'll share my screen. So yeah, so this is the problem statement. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So first of all, enable users to query relevant databases in English language for insights and reduce inefficiency. This can be extended into any, like this has far more use cases that it can support. So business and product teams querying databases for dipstick analysis. I have faced a lot of this as a product manager. I mean, either you know how to query SQL very well, or I mean, even there's so much problem because you don't know which database has what data. So yeah, I mean, this has been like a constant problem I faced. And secondly, eventually all the database querying can be replaced to English language query. So that's that's where the world is headed. So yeah, this is the problem statement. I'll quickly show. My workflow is like very simple as compared to Pavitra's. So it's still, I mean, I'll say still work in progress. So this is where I am. Very simple workflow. I'll show it work. So I'm taking an input query. Using a query builder, I am sending ChatGPT like brief schema info and my query, and like kind of redirecting it to. So this is where the query is converted from English to, let's say, I'm currently using MongoDB because that's what my platform uses. So it's converting from English query to MongoDB query. And then there's some cleanup required, and then finally I'm querying it in MongoDB database, and then that's what the output is. So I mean, there's a lot that can be done, but this is all that I could build till now. Before showing you guys the result, I'll show you what all I tried. Yeah. So this was the first thing I was looking for, wherein I was trying to do an agent altogether. which I'll send the query to. It'll and there's like OpenAI model, memory, and then MongoDB database linked to it. But then this is still not working. I'm still figuring out what I can do. I'll talk more about this. So yeah, that's where I am. I'll just run this flow and then probably take a few queries from all of you to show whether it works or not. So let's say I say how many comedy movies were released after 2000, after year 2000, let's say. So yeah, this runs. Sorry. Yeah, so we can see it said 3468, right? Probably I'll take one more example. How this down all the movie names with Amitabh. Okay, let's see what it does. Yeah, so yeah, it has given me all the movies that were there in database, 30 movies. Zanjeer, Diwar, Sholay. Yeah, right. So I mean, yeah, we can query essentially anything, and it will give me all the output. So I'll talk about now how I went about building this. So first of all, I mean, I had to learn about MongoDB query, etc., from scratch. So I took like a lot of time in figuring out how to, because I've done a lot of SQL queries, by the way. And 10 years ago, I've used, I think, another NoSQL database. I don't even remember the name. So I mean, I had to learn a bit about it, like from scratch. So I set up this. They provide this sample mflix by default, and then this is the movies database I'm querying, right? After setting this up, I had to give it network access for n8n, and then I had to create a user specifically for n8n, so like a database access for n8n. So these were like the things that I had to do from MongoDB side. Another thing I'll talk about, like in what next, I'll spend more time on that. But yeah, this is the basic setup from MongoDB side. And then in terms of query, I mean, it took a lot of time. So here, there is like the prompt. I had to mention all about what MongoDB should do. So I'll actually open my Notion. So yeah, you can see this. One second. So this is what I'm sending. This is a simplified uh, AI agent. You are an intelligent MongoDB query builder, and I've described it the task, and then I've shared the schema as well of the database I'm querying. Right here also, I mean, I've removed like some of the things that were not relevant or less useful, so that I mean, I reduce my context length as well as uh, they were like things, let's say comments, Rotten Tomato comments, and also I've not like used those. So yeah, so those were some of the changes I've done, and then I have added it here. Yeah, so as you can see, so that's one. And then I've shared the user query, which I got from the chat, right, in the previous step. So these are the two steps. And then there was some cleanup required because the data it was sharing, I mean, had like other rows in like, data. So I had to clean it up using JavaScript. So this is the step for that. And then finally, this is like aggregate query I'm running in MongoDB, wherein I'm just fetching this and then sending it across. So yeah, that's where I am right now. But then there's a lot that needs to be done here to actually make it production ready. So I'll briefly talk about that. So yeah, that's the next steps. So first of all, go back and add memory so that it has some context. Right now, it's just taking the current query that I have, and the response is also just the dump from MongoDB. So I have to make it human readable. So these two are the next steps I'll work on, and this will happen primarily with the help of agent. But even otherwise, I was like just tinkering with like another workflow where I add like one more flow after this to do, let's say, uh, make it human readable. Right now it's just showing, ID, title, etc., which is not very human readable. And then yeah, And then the next step is like add embeddings in vector search. So MongoDB provides all this functionality. I'll have to add like one more row with embeddings from each and every document, and then use vector search instead of normal search. So what it will do is I will have a lot more flexibility in terms of making errors at the human side, and then it will also simplify the number of the time it takes to respond. There's so many benefit of adding vector search here, which I mean I even tried this, but then I mean within the time frame I was working, I mean I could not complete it. Then the third step will be probably solve for edge cases. Right now, let's say if I do a generic query, it can return 10,000 rows, which will not be processed, which will fail if I have to again make it human readable. And then there are like some errors that it is doing. So let's say if I say top IMDb movies, so it is using sort incorrectly at times. So I need to give it like the correct prompt to solve that part. And finally, the biggest challenge I will say is to use not just one database collection, but multiple database collections. So right now, if I have to make it production ready, probably a client will query 100 collections. So how do I give it, how do I make it choose which collection is important and then go and query that collection? So that is something I need to build here. And again, this can be probably solved with the help of memory. Like if I use the memory part, right? So let's say for all the 100 collections, I can store a schema for those collections in memory. First step for the agent will be to choose what collections will be required, and then the second step will be to go and query those collections as a pipeline model. And next is like find cheaper models, and then finally, if I have to really go in production, most likely we'll have to build a Python code and then go forward from there. So yeah, that's I think are the next set of steps. Um, yeah, uh, yeah, that's where I am. Any questions? Happy to take.
Yeah, this is awesome.
So the database that you showed is production database, is it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Database that you use is production DB, is it?
Is production?
DB,
No, it's not. Right now, I've just used a test database, but the idea is to actually make it put it into production. And this, I'm currently building a pilot, and then those set of steps I'll probably iterate over the next week and solve some of those, and then eventually it will go into go and use the production database.
Understood. Okay. I was just curious to see the performance and the time and how will that be handled as part of this n8n timeout, etc. Just curious to know that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I have not tried that yet. Yeah. Hi, Heyman.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for showing this. This is great. I think there are multiple use cases. One curious, like, given the database schema is like, how do you ensure the evaluation or the accuracy benchmark? Because your query building could be hallucinating or generate the wrong words. Any thoughts on that?
Right. Again, yeah, that's I'm as of now relying on the AI model right now, but then there are several things I plan to do. So I mean, not necessarily answering your question correctly, but let's say if what it used to do was it used to fetch the whole document, which has probably 50 columns. So most likely I don't really need those 50 columns. So first the thing is I'll restrict it to fetch only those limited set of columns which might be required for the user. Then restricting number of rows that it should fetch. So and let's say anything probably above 1,000 rows it should not fetch. And then I think the way I found, I think it's trial and error is what I feel. So as an example, the sort it was using was incorrect. But once I have spotted it, I'll probably give the correct examples in the query itself, in the prompt itself, to tell that hey, this kind of query. So let's say if I'm saying top movies, it means you have to use like sort like in XYZ manner. So I think it's just trial and error is what I feel. But yeah, happy to hear from you guys if there are like better evals that I can use to ensure that it is giving the right query and not hallucinating.
Sure, thanks. So like previously, like in my organization, what we have done is there are multiple ways. obviously first is like ground truth. So we synthetically generate the data and set the ground truth. Second, then we use another LLM as a judge to see the performance. So so yeah, but great, yeah.
Got it. So you're saying just use one more LLM, which will say whether it is correct or not, and if it says it's not correct or there are some issues in this query, so probably not go ahead and ask it to redo it, right?
Redo it, kind of, yes.
Got it. All right. Okay. Sounds good. Hari, you have a question?
Hi, Kshitij. Yeah. Have you tried writing some records onto the database? I see that you are retrieving some data, maybe using vector embeddings or through queries, but have you tried writing onto the database through the chat only? Like,
yeah, it can. I was just tinkering around with it. It can do it. So as an example, there was one use case I was trying that, hey, recommend me like some of these movies as per my request. Then ask, let's say I really like those movies. I want to save it in my own playlist. So I created that playlist. It added that movie name in that playlist. So it was able to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then I think this can be extended to any database type. I'm currently using MongoDB, but we can use SQL. We can use like whatever possible. Yeah.
Awesome. I think the main point comes down to exactly what you mentioned, right? If there are hundreds of databases, how do we bring in that reliability is probably the question. So we had that use case in my startup at Zopsa where we had about our schema was very different. It was a very fluid schema. We also use MongoDB, and we had literally about close to 1,000 different databases, right? So and this database also differ for every single customer. So when a customer actually queries, what we do is we have an LLM which identifies what tables the customer actually has access, and it tries to fetch the schema. And we also built the databases in such a way that you can add descriptions for each of the column names when you create the schema. So when you actually do that, so the schema name, description, everything actually gets created, and then it goes to the LLM as a prompt. And using that, then the LLM actually creates the query. So that's kind of how we managed to solve that multiple databases problem. But this was about a year ago, and now the LLMs are like a lot more reliable, right?
Yeah.